Welcome back to the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. Now, first, they went to see the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, this week, but it seems there's more to their work this week in politics. The Volta regional branch of the New Patriotic Party has indicated that the fervent apology from the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, to the chiefs of the Volta region during his 5-day tour clearly shows the failure of the NDC to deliver on its promises to the region. Communications officer of the NPP PIUS, ENAM HADZIBE, claims the NDC panicked after the presidential candidate Nana Akufo-Addo received a rousing welcome during his tour of the region, hence their resolve to use ways to win back the hearts of the electorates in the region.
In fact, if you ask me, in addition to the politicking that we are doing, we are also now doing a little bit of journalism. We at least are now telling you that the Chief of Staff entered into Togo, and not him alone, him himself, his outside and his previous. So I think that the fair, but I think that the fair, I can agree, but it is also important that you put the question, Chief of Staff, were you in Togo? You ask him, when did you enter into Togo? Which villages did you visit in Togo? And what is your mission in Togo? Well, maybe you should take your time and read the full script. It is clear, I have a clear understanding from the text that the visit into Togo was not during the tour that was on the boat. He went in Togo on the heels of his visit. When he came to the Volta region and ended the tour, he entered into Togo. That is the story. So I think that if he did not enter into Togo, I'm saying to you that the right to decide to give you measured information, and in my estimation, I have given you enough information. If you think that the Chief of Staff entering into the Volta, and it being alleged that after the tour he visited the Volta region, if you think that as a country-loving journalist, it's not news enough to want to pursue, that is your editorial discretion. But I think that we also reserve the right to give you the information that we believe can incite your own works. If I give you all the information and they say, oh, that's MPP people talking, I believe that if you follow this up, you will find out when the Chief of Staff entered into Togo. You will find out who is spoke to Togo and what he did. At that point, I believe the story will not be coming from a fair-minded journalist in the center and not an MPP apparatchik like myself. So in my judgment, we have given you enough information to begin the discussion of all that is happening.
Right, so that's from the Volta region and the New Patriotic Party. Well, the Ghana Police Service says the tradition of persons using objects to form so many groups is becoming a matter of concern. We'll bring you that story in just a moment. But still staying with campaign-related matters, Vice President Kwesi Mr. Arthur has praised the outgoing U.S. President Barack Obama for his performance as 44th president of that country. Donald Trump won the race to the White House yesterday after a hard-fought battle against Democrat Hillary Clinton. In fact, we know now that he is on his way to go see Barack Obama in a meeting. But on the campaign trail in the Western region, Ghana's vice president likened the NDC's parliamentary candidate in the Takwan-Suayem constituency, Kwame Jokoto, and said the electors there must vote for him and President John Mahama to ensure speedy development in the area.
Mr. NDC, Nenyu Abel, Ejuma Piwa, or there, or there, 7 December, Yako, Neko vote, JM. Now, here, but no be say, Kwame Jokoto, or say, Okiha, and Pedem Council Preacher one. America, what's a Barack Obama, and Papa Kenya, non Chrome. Barack Obama, America for say, of Kenya, Uncle Chrome. 8 years, where they the best president America for Wenya. Say, America for Wakafo Bia, one horn of Papa Fiwa. A Juma, Kenyan boy, Wabaya or one, who be that. Inti, say, as a one wolf ya, yet two goo. As the one wolf ya, ye you go. As the papa of the fear, yes, so it is as the papa to that Kwame Jokoto. Waba, your boss on the moon. Why, Yejuma?
That's Vice President Kwesi Arthur there with Kwame Ojokote, popularly known in the Takonsuayim, in that area for his works in the media. Well, the Ghana Police Service today says the tradition of persons using objects to form queues on election day will not be allowed in the upcoming elections. It has been the practice of some persons to use stones and stools to form queues either for themselves or relatives on election day. At a meeting yesterday, however, with some stakeholders, the Ghana Police says this act is unacceptable. Hannah Odami was there for Joy News.
The practice of Ghanaians using stools and other objects, such as stones, to form queues for voting has been a regular feature in Ghana's elections. The objective from some busy voters is to maintain a place in the long queues, but it has been a source of confusion at polling centers on election days. Yesterday, the police engaged election observers from neighboring Burkina Faso, Togo and Ivory Coast to share experiences in ensuring peaceful elections. Head of Ghana's Election Security Chief Superintendent Benjamin Agojo announced that police would only allow eligible voters to join queues.
You will not have to use objects as to form a queue because they create problems. And another is the fact that you should not mass or bus people to the station to go and vote because it can create or it can constitute a trigger. We will do our best to provide the security that is needed for this election, but election security is a collective responsibility. Security agencies alone cannot provide it. All of us have a stake. 29,000 polling stations. Is it possible for all the people who are deploying aside the security agencies to have a common deployment plan, or maybe share your deployment plans in such a way that you will note that when somebody, you go where people have not deployed rather than sending 2 or 3 representatives and observers while there are others which have not been covered.
Political officer at the British High Commission, Abdul Razak Yakubu, was concerned about the engagement of vigilante groups by political parties. He also cautioned media houses with known political affiliations to be circumspect in their reportage.
We need to look at how proper and professional election reporting is done. The other factors that also needs to be taken into consideration has to do with vigilante groups. I know many political parties are making efforts to disassociate themselves from these vigilante groups. I think that part of it should also be monitored as part of your activities here in Ghana as well. We need to make sure that at the end, Ghana is the winner, and then there's continuous democracy so that Ghana continues to remain as the beacon of hope, and then to let others take the lead from that.
A journalist, Paul Adomotri, believes the tension experienced in the country every 8 years, especially when one party has been in power for those years, is as a result of the winner-takes-all mantra. Here is his solution.
Perhaps if the constitution is amended in a way that creates, in a way that deconstructs the winner-takes-all situation and brings other opportunities for parties who may not have won the presidential election, it might work better for Ghana. We have been having elections from 1992 up till now. If you look at the statistics, you will think that we shouldn't go into an election now worried about violence, but we are worried about violence. That's where Ghana always is, until we have a significant change in the rules that always present a winner-takes-all situation.
For Joy News, my name is Hannah Odami.
Well, the Vice Chairperson of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament, Osamia, was asking the Electoral Commission to prudently use the few days left before the elections to ensure everything runs smoothly. According to CR94, the EC was supposed to have given the notice of poll 30 clear days to the elections, but that has not been done due to the several legal suits that the EC was saddled with within the last few days. Now, with 26 days to go till December 7, Mr. Samuel says he's worried the EC could disrupt the timetable and cause a constitutional crisis if it does not do things right. He spoke to Beatrice Edu at the back of questions bordering on what the Constitution stipulates in the announcement of notice of polls and if there's been any breaches by the Electoral Commission so far.
I'm not sure about the 30 days but I know that once a writ is issued, then the notice of poll would come as soon as practicable. So in that respect, I believe that the EC is within the regulations. But the concern is that the EC has brought onto itself serious delay serious delay programs, in the sense that when the EC should have applied the regulations the way it was designed by giving the presidential candidates who submitted their nomination with some problems, instead of the EC doing the work within the time provided to the extent that she would be able to comply, or the nominees would be able to comply with the regulation. She didn't. And when they challenged within their rights, you see the EC also appealing. This was eroding time away from us, to the extent that the High Court, the Supreme Court, had to come and save the situation. I was hoping that the EC was not doing that to trigger the provisions of Regulation 16, which regulation states that the EC can adjourn the poll for 30 days. So the way the presidential process was going, it became clear to me that if the Supreme Court had not stepped in, the EC would have had no choice but to trigger the provisions of Regulation 16 to adjourn the poll for 30 days. Then we would have been in constitutional crisis, because we could not hand over on the 7th of January, because that would be the date that the election would be held. Now, my problem also is that the EC, when they were pushing for us to hold the elections in November instead of December, I don't know whether they had at the back of their minds the provisions of 16 and triggering that, so that it would have been November for parliamentary and December for presidential.
But for you,
that is not there. I hope that is not.
But from what you're saying, I get the understanding that the EC, because of the fact that the court stepped in, the Supreme Court stepped in, EC is still within time not to necessarily trigger this provision 16 you're talking about. We
don't know, and that is very, very dangerous for us as a country and as a people who are implementing the rules and processes of democracy. For me, now, as you said, things are beginning to pile up. Now we've now got all the candidates on the ballot. Now we want to know whether the time that the EC has would be enough for the EC in order to do things as required by the law, by the regulations. And if the EC cannot do that, then where are we getting ourselves into? What are we getting ourselves into? If you look at the rules that the EC seeks to apply, the EC herself or itself are not complying.
So do you foresee trouble coming?
I don't foresee trouble coming as a Ghanaian.
In terms of delayed election and the possibility of a constitutional crisis?
Of course. And that is why I'm saying, even though the EC has put in the provision 16 or Regulation 16, now the EC cannot trigger it. If the EC were to trigger it, then the EC will plunge us into a constitutional. So the EC will have to do it. But in so doing, would the EC give a level playing field, a balanced field for all the contestants to be able to get equal opportunity?
Right then, we'll go for a short break now. When we come back, we'll head to It looks as though the politics is beginning to affect who is your friend, and it could even end in blows and punches. There's some tension in town. We'll bring you those details in just a moment.